with these three, I had no other conclusion, but there was somebody out there.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, this is exciting to me for two reasons. One, there are 4 rational arguments for the existence of God. You know, you got the teleological, you got the ontological, those arguments for the existence of God. For a person who is a true believer, who doesn't need much evidence, you tell them there's a God, they buy it.
Yeah.
They don't need all of this. But there is a mindset in the world today that is highly educated, that has been born and bred in a television, computer-dominated world, that is skeptical and worse, cynical. And this kind of presentation, to my mind, is targeted to that kind of person. This may be a CEO of a company. This may be somebody who doesn't really have a lot of Bible knowledge, but they can relate to mathematics, they can relate to statistics, they can relate to empirical study, they can relate to science. And this kind of logical, methodological presentation would be geared for that kind of mind. I've baptized people who you just say Jesus lives and they're ready to be baptized. But there are others who are much tougher, who want facts, who want statistics, who want a different kind of presentation. And it occurs to me that this is the kind of niche that your research is leading you towards.
That's right. Many of them want this kind of evidence before they would venture belief. In fact, the predominant view in the world today is what I found to be called postmodernism or relativism,
yes,
in which they say, look, you can say your thing, I will say my thing, and nobody can ever say which is the real one. In fact, there is no such thing as real truth.
Yes, yes.
Everything is relative. I examine that too. And I've examined it in about 12 different angles in which I looked at it. And I found that finally relativism as an idea does not really stand to reasonable scrutiny, nor is it a practical theme or philosophy to go by. You can't bring it down to where your feet really touch the ground. So I do deal with those questions too. Traditional truth, which is traditional theism, and then going on to modernism or the scientific form of truth, and then finally looking at the postmodernism or the relative type of truth. When you go through all these things, I found in my study that the traditional form still has a tremendous relevance to our lives.
Praise the Lord, praise the Lord. What is interesting is when you look at the postmodern mindset, it's dominated by 4 things. I don't remember them all, but I know 2 are. One, that everything is relative, and that you've got yours, I've got mine. Mine works for me, yours works for you, so let's just leave it at that. The other is that there's nothing permanent, that what is truth today, what we believe today, may not be so tomorrow. So let's stand on it as long as it's convenient and it works, and if it doesn't work, we change. Those are 2 aspects of that mindset. And when you come to the study of the Lord with that mindset, it's very difficult to plant your feet on solid evidence, because you're saying, well, that's good for you today, it may not fly tomorrow. So to meet that mindset, you've got to deal with issues that are permanent and eternal. And that's why I think your study is so exciting, because it meets a particular mindset where that mind is, and then takes it where it needs to go. So obviously, your own personal study resulted in some truths that have shaped your life.
That's right. In fact, the next question that I asked was, if that's the case, if traditional theism is something relevant, I would look into that. And when I looked into that, there was this maze of literature out there, traditional literature. And I had to ask one question at that point, because some were saying, there's only one way, and that's mine. And there's the other group that are saying, no, you can't say that. That is too bigoted and rigid. Every one of them actually leads to the same final common goal. It's called pluralism,
yes,
and it's the pluralistic way of looking at it. I had to decide on that too. So when I scrutinized pluralism, I did it by going to the writings of these different religions to see what they were saying. And lo and behold, none of them were ever agreeing that the other religion could be an equal alternative.
Uh-huh.
Each of them were saying mine is the only way.
Yes.
So pluralism really did not stand a scrutiny of those writings, as well as of a simple argument which they make that their religions are really equal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to say they are equal, you have to have a reference point, and then they become equal.
Yes.
There is no reference point.
Mm-hmm.
To say they are equal was not really reasonable. At the same time, they could not go away from that claim, because that's the only way they would say they're all paths to the same goal.
Yes.
So when you reasonably look at these claims, one by one, you eliminate that, and it was a pivotal, crucial point of my search where I came to, that finally, if you use reason and a bit of logic at that point, there has to be only one way that is telling the truth.
Yes, yes, yes. Everybody cannot be right ultimately. That's and though a hallmark of postmodern man is pluralistic thinking, ultimately everybody can't be right. Somebody's right and somebody's not right. The fact that you are still a Christian, an Adventist, says you reaffirmed that reality.
One has to go step by step in that. And when you go step by step, the next step that I did in this search was, okay, there is just one. At that point, it was a little frightening to me, because what if I was not in that one way? So I decided I would just go ahead and do that search and put these religions together. What I did really at that point was ask 10 questions of each of these 5 religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, and went through them one by one. I'm asking this question. The first question, for instance, what type of literature are you based on? Is that literature, which is literature of antiquity, meaning ancient literature, do we classify that particular literature as just folk tales, or legendary, or mythological, or historical? The credibility of the writing would depend on which the classification was. So when I went through that and asked these questions of all these 5, the answers came out by themselves. I didn't put an answer there. That the Christian New Testament has the greatest amount of credibility as being a historical piece of ancient literature. In fact, it is the best attested ancient piece of literature in the world, not just religious, just even classical.
Yeah.